Hello, everyone. Good morning. It's Alana Kaivalya here, and I am very, very excited to be sharing this conversation today with one of my most dear, closest, longtime friends, Jase Cannon. I have her very luckily in my apartment, and I thought, you know what, I would take this opportunity and chat with her a little bit about what it means to be an extraordinary ally for the LGBTQ plus community. And we're talking about this in a timely fashion because this is Pride Month and it's officially Pride Weekend here in New York City where we live. And I've been very privileged to hear Jase actually have several conversations over the last couple of days with various community members about what we can do, how we can do better in the wellness community. And I wanted to bring that conversation to my community, to us. So Jase, welcome. Thank you for being here with me.
Thanks for having me. This is so, I love this woman right here. So exciting. And I'm so grateful to have this conversation just extended within your community.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to let you know that Jase has been a part of the Kaivalya Yoga Method community for many, many years. She's definitely an OG, was there from the beginning, has seen it grow, and has really been one of our greatest supporters. So I wanted to turn the conversation around a bit and figure out, especially in light of today's social justice, inequality, talks about how we do better as humanity, supporting our fellow human beings as equals. I wanted to talk about what we can do as yoga teachers and spiritual leaders to be better allies and to support all different kinds of communities, but especially we're focusing today on the LGBTQ plus community. And I, luckily because she is my friend, we've kind of had this discussion over the last day or so. So she's got some great ideas and I would love them to be presented here. And I would love to make sure that you all understand how, as a spiritual leader, you can be a supporter, an ally, hold space for these conversations that are happening, because they are deep conversations. They're critically important conversations. And as a part of yoga, we want everyone to feel included. I mean, yoga means unity, right?
Yeah,
so that's kind of what we're about. And we need to make sure that we are extending that unity to all of our community members. So Jase, let me just start by asking you, where can someone start? Where can someone who is, I'm going to be completely transparent if it's not already obvious, white and straight. Mm-hmm. Where can someone like me start to be an ally for the rest of our community, for the LGBTQ plus community?
Well, I think you're doing it right now. I mean, this is absolutely, it's having the conversations with your community. It's bringing up the topic. It's creating space. I think the best and foremost is to have the language around it, and language would mean just letting your whole community know that you're a supporter, that everyone is welcome. And I mean, your community is so diverse, right? And within it, you have students and you have teachers and you have people that's going through the teacher training. And part of it is, I'd say it's more at the top. It's like, well, if this is a company, an organization, and a community, start with the company.
Yeah.
Have the language around that anyone and everyone's accepted. And that could be whether it's through your website, it's through your teacher training on it, through pronouns, whatever it may be. I think that creates the space first and foremost. It's like if your community feels supported within, then the extended community will come, right? And as a straight cis white woman, it's like, I think most importantly is ask the questions, right? Yeah. And here is a safe space. And to me, I would say, ask any question. It's not, sometimes you hear people say, well, I asked the wrong question, or was it inappropriate? Yeah, there's a lot of learning curves.
I think also too, there's some fear and embarrassment around asking questions, either from, I don't know what questions to ask, or I wouldn't want to put somebody on the spot. So I think sometimes that can close, I'm saying us, meaning,
right.
us white cis people. It can kind of close us off. So what questions would you suggest are good to ask, or how does someone who's really never ventured into allyship or supporting community, or never really thought about how much they have to say out loud, I support you. I am here for you. I want to include all of you. Where might they start? What might be some good questions to begin with?
Well, I think, I think it's it's interesting because the LGBTQ plus, I mean, it keeps going on and on. It's really phenomenal. PPQQ, there's so many of us. And whether it's our sexual identity or if it's our identity as a gender, we're kind of lumped in this sum. But I think the conversations are like, around, for example, your language, if you are teaching classes, right?
Yeah.
And so you have such phenomenal opportunity to have a really phenomenal description that is welcoming to everyone. It's also, I know this is a new thing, but I'm going to say, hi, my name is Alana Cavalia. My pronouns are she and her. That simple, you putting your pronouns out gives the opportunity for the other individual to do the same.
I love that.
And I think when we see more of ourselves, right, if within diversity, whether color our skin or age or our gender, then the community comes like, oh my God, I see this phenomenal trans individual, right? Or I see this Black woman teaching, like yoga's for me. That's where we want to start to go. And I think the curiosity is like, you have this community, right? We could join on Facebook and we can have a dialogue. I think creating space and conversations is a phenomenal place to start.
One of the things that I've really been focusing on in my conversations over the last few weeks with some of my community members, Jase, Sean Moore, on podcast, on Facebook Lives, within my own private Facebook group, has really been emphasizing the power of holding space. That we as spiritual leaders, one of the best things we can do, especially at this time of civil unrest, social justice, uncertainty, even with the pandemic, everything that's going on, is to simply be present and hold space for others. One of the things that we have to do in order to do that effectively and appropriately is to make sure that we've worked through our issues ourselves. Which, we giggle, but it's true that if within us we have any feelings of judgment, reticence, fear,
can I jump in?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's a good thing. It took me 38 years, when I was 38 years old, I'm a little older now, to come out.
Is that all?
That's all. That's it. And what's very interesting is, I suppressed my gender identity for a lifetime. I didn't love that part of myself. I rejected that part of myself. And a lot of it was transphobia. I had a vision of what a trans individual is, and that's generational, for me at least, in my upbringing.
Yeah.
So sometimes we don't realize that we have, a disconnect, and whether it might be a phobia or a racism at some level, but I was the worst one. And so I had to overcome that personally to really love and accept myself and then surrender into it. So I think if we could come into it with more of an open mind and curiosity. I mean, we have to do it at our age, right? This is us, the youth. They're already there. Like, this is like, we're trying to catch up with them. But I think it's so important, especially within the wellness community, right? Like, I mean, we hold a responsibility, and
we do. We really do.
Part of that responsibility is creating access for everyone.
And that's difficult because, one of the things that I do know about the wellness community, and specifically the yoga community, obviously, because that's where I'm very steeped, is that we have not done a good job historically of being inclusive, of being diverse, of giving people access. I know that I myself, with my body, was discriminated against because of my size and weight by a very prominent magazine who said that I couldn't be on the cover because of my booty and my shape, and this is nothing in comparison to what other marginalized communities go through. Okay, I'm not saying that this is anywhere close to that, but I'm saying that if even I can be discriminated against, we're really doing a poor job and need to do better. I know that much of the imagery and the representation in the wellness community has been of one type of body, person, gender, color, and we have to do better with that. So What are some other ways, Jase, do you think that, we can do better as a wellness community? And I know that this was a discussion that you had yesterday, so I'd love to hear some of the ideas you guys had.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. You just got to expand the conversation. I think is a huge thing. Whether we're talking about within yoga, right, and it's your studio that you're teaching in, it's realizing who's in your space, and then creating, I want to say, the language around that is supported, whether it's in a class, and recognizing all bodies. What I think is really phenomenal, especially within your community, you have the opportunity to change the yoga industry.
Well, we're trying.
Right? Like I honestly say, like, there is no regulation. There's no standard that includes everybody. And, this one here, I fell in love with in 2009 before I even met you. I was living in an ashram, and I downloaded her CD, and I didn't even know the Uttatasanas. I didn't even know the postures at that point. But what I loved is the resonance and what you were sharing and connecting with. And I think that's what it is. It's like we're kind of getting rid of what the corporate image of yoga is. And I mean, more than ever, right? Like going through a pandemic, like, we have to show up. And I love how you say, like, spiritual leaders, and really, what does that mean? It's like, I want to create space that's supportive. I want to be able to let somebody breathe and feel connected in their body. And part of that is creating safer spaces. And that's my own experience. I mean, I have a big family in New York City where I teach yoga, and
a yoga family.
Yeah, a yoga family. And, it took, I mean, if Alana's seen me through all my transitions, but I used to have a big beard. And I say this because I was bearded yogi, and I taught yoga, and I had this brand, right? I had this business around this image that wasn't...
It was quite an identity.
Not authentic, but cute beard. But
it was cute. It's very cute.
But part of that is as you know, as we show up as a teacher, we hold this space, and we have all these eyes looking upon us. And so my transition into my truest self was very public. And I had to show up, and my studios have mirrors. I mean, we go one step further, but I showed up, and I went through this transition, but it took me several years to feel safe to practice in my own studio. Now, my studio, my community at Modo, they've shown up. It took them, all of us, time to go through what we're doing right now. We're showing up where we're at.
Yeah.
We're showing up in your community where you're at, and we got places to go. Yeah. And that's what we're trying to do, is create those steps so that one does feel safe. I mean, that's it. One feels safe to go into the changing room. That is their identity. One feels safe to be able to practice in a studio and not have all eyes on them, right? Like, and part of that is it really falls into the teacher's responsibility.
The teacher's ability to create that safe space is so critical. And I think much of it begins with our language. And that's something that you've mentioned a couple of times, that when we're talking, when we're teaching, I actually had this was many, many years ago when I was teaching a teacher training. And I remember I was giving some sort of metaphor or example, and I was talking about a relationship. I think I was telling a story, probably a myth about something, who knows, right? As one does. And I kept referencing the husband and wife, the male and female, very heteronormative relationship type. And I apparently I did it several times. And a queer student, thankfully, came up to me afterward and said, it would really help me to understand the yoga better if you could remove that heteronormative assumption from your stories so that I can fit myself into what you're talking about. And it was like a light bulb went on, that even just something as simple as, not always referencing, your husband, your wife, your straight partner would be a way to create inclusivity. Another thing is to, watch the pronouns, watch the use of gendered language to create inclusivity, to always, be welcoming to people, making sure that the changing rooms can be unisex, universal for everybody. These are practical things that allow folks to feel safe, to feel supported, because we're talking about personhood here.
Yeah.
We just want people. We just want individuals to come and feel supported. And this is you and I as yoga teachers and spiritual leaders. This is us enacting our purpose. Yoga's foundational principles are built on unity, are built on acceptance. And that just is what it is. And if we're following that, we are going to do what we need to do to stretch ourselves, to move past any resistance or fear in order to make sure that we are presenting inclusive, well-rounded, supportive classes for all of our community members.
I mean, it's kind of pretty simple.
Yeah.
And what happens when
if they're a human, they are welcome.
I mean, that's the grand responsibility, right? I mean, we mentioned body types. I love, we both live in New York City, and sometimes, you know, within my community teaching, you know, it's always maybe the type A individual, really lean and wearing no clothes basically. And how does a bigger body or older body feel safe, right? And included. Mm-hmm. But when we do create that human connection and we hold space, we hold accountability if you notice energy that isn't appropriate in the room either, right? Because, you know, sometimes we have to be the educators.
Yes.
And, you know, saying, you know, your presence or your energy or your conversation maybe didn't uplift the individual. And I think what happens, the simplicity of it, is when we include everyone and when everyone sees themselves within your community, the community grows.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we want, right?
That's
we want more people to do yoga.
Yeah.
We want more people to just come together. And in these times, especially, I think that's the great responsibility. Yeah.
So this is Pride weekend. Yay! And, you know, normally Pride weekend all over the country, all over the world is a very social event. It's a very big event, certainly a very big event here in New York City, parades, parties, gatherings, events, all sorts of things happening. But it's happening very differently this weekend.
Yeah.
It's happening just like it's happening with you and us at this time on the internet, online, via podcast, live broadcasts. So what I wanted to talk a little bit about is, you know, we have important discussions happening right now around race, around gender, around inclusivity, around social justice. And we've certainly all been talking about the Black Lives Matter movement. But I want to spend a moment and talk about the Black trans lives that also fucking matter. So what can you share with us about that?
Absolutely. Well, I want to start with saying that this particular Pride has meant more to me than any other Pride. And I feel that resonates with many of us queer, trans individuals. So Pride started with Black trans women with the riots, right? And fighting for justice and equality. And part of the Pride movement, just a little bit of education, is that, you know, the year after and the years after, Pride became, right? And I would even say from, you know, the early 70s, the movement shifted quite fast for the gay white male. You know, we talk about gay rights and lesbian rights and able to adopt and everything else. The trans community was left away. And that's where we are today. And this Pride to me means something even more so because, you know, I see my own privilege. I mean, even to say I'm a trans woman and I have fear of safety, I have fear of discrimination and hatred and all of those things. But I don't have the fear that my life is in jeopardy every day I walk outside my home. And what brings, you know, deep sadness, and I'm going to say rage in my heart, is the fact that our trans Black women, brown women are being murdered. And there's such injustice right now. So if I say I have rage in my heart for the first time ever, and if I have what Pride really means for me, that it's fighting for the rights, it's fighting for safety, it's fighting for equality for everyone. But there's a little bit more joy as well. I don't know if you guys witnessed what took place a couple of weeks in Brooklyn, and you could just Google it.
Yeah.
It was the Black Trans Matters Life Protest March. We had over 15,000. Honestly, if you look at the videos, it's not doctored. It looks like 50,000. Never, ever have we ever had that attention. Never, ever have we lifted the voices. And I think what Pride is absolutely should be a celebratory experience, and we are, whether it's our homes, our rooftops, wherever we are in our home, in our hometown. But I also believe that we have to turn around. We have to open up our arms and support those in need that who are behind us. I mean, it's our Sangha.
I mean, that's one of the things that we can do. And that's one of the things that we must do as spiritual leaders, is to support others. You know, you said that there is fear to just leave your house. When I can't imagine that, right? Because I'm very lucky to be born in this body in many ways. And to hear that people can have that level of fear to just be who they are and live, why wouldn't we want to counteract that? Why wouldn't we want to support, uplift, make them feel more included, do what we can to alleviate that fear, right? This is all antithetical to yoga. It is. It just is. Yoga is in favor of love over fear. And anytime we find fear, we need to do what we can to move toward love, but we can't always do that alone. We often need the help of others, the allyship of others, the support of others, the support of our community, you know, the recognition from someone else who can look you in the eye and say, you have nothing to fear, or at least you have nothing to fear from me. So,
well, I think, you know, it's interesting, you know, February, Black History Month, right? And then Pride Month is June. That's no longer, we don't get just a few days to honor. And I think what this movement has done and what we've talked about is how do we take the movement even further? How do we take the conversation that it's included in every part of our lives, right? A part of every 12 months.
Then it becomes our new normal, really.
Absolutely. And yes, if we want to celebrate even more on June, that's fine. But I'm not stopping, you're not stopping, hopefully, on July 1st. And I think that's what we're doing. You know, our community here, we're showing up where we are, right? And we're putting a spotlight, where can we do better? Where can we just show up for each other in a bigger way? And doing that action and having those conversations continually, like, is going to make this a more richer family. And you and I both know this. I mean, I have a chosen family. This woman's been my chosen family for 12 years. Like, we get to choose our family. We get to choose how we raise our children, or how we educate our friends, and how we empower and lift each other.
Well, I'm here to lift you up. I
love you. This is fun. By the way, never done live. But
yeah, we're basically live everywhere right now. And we'll also be releasing this as a podcast. So if you've enjoyed this conversation, if it has done what it was meant to do, which is to open up the conversation, to drive you into further inquiry, to help you maybe discover if there are any areas of fear or resistance, to move through those so that you can be an excellent supporter, an excellent ally for all of our community members. Yoga is inclusive. We are here to include everyone, and we are going to do our best, and we are going to continue to do better. And I, for one, am going to continue to listen to my friends, to my family, to my community members, on how I can continue to do better, how we can continue to do better with this community, and we're only going to grow and evolve together. But it all starts with acceptance. And, you know, if you didn't hear me say it earlier, I am so glad you all are here, and this is a place of acceptance. I want everyone who is a part of my community to understand that this is a safe space, and I will do everything I can to make sure that it is a safe space for you, that you always feel safe, supported, and, you know, have what you need, which is the ability to feel always accepted and included.
Can I suggest something?
Yes, of course.
Okay, yeah. So if this brings up anything for you, whether it's your own experience of being queer or trans, or in that beautiful umbrella, or if you have questions and you know you are fearful to ask if something's wrong, I would love if there's a way that you can just write in and share about it. And maybe we can have an open discussion in the next couple of weeks or something. So part of it is education. Part of it is like listening and And most importantly, we want to hear from you as well.
Of course we do. Yeah. So that's a great segue, actually. Where can people learn more about you, Miss Jase Cannon?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I'm not that big on social media, but just it's jasecannon.com/Instagram. I'm never on Facebook. So, but I think where you can really find me is here. This is where I want to be. So within this community, I'll show up whenever I'm invited. And
you're always invited.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I love you. So, and thank you. I mean, Alana did mention that I've been here from the beginning. And one of the most beautiful things that I've witnessed is how large and rich this community is. And I know the heart and the effort that you put into this, because this community was missing. And you created this space for everyone. You created a big sangha. So
I'm trying. We're gonna keep doing it.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, everybody, for being a participant in this discussion, and we look forward to so much more.